Why haven't they texted back? Did I say something wrong? Maybe they're mad about something. I did make that joke last time. They hate that? Damn, I should get ready. Why does my back hurt? Maybe this is a health problem. Or from my workout? What should I wear? Damn, I'm overthinking. I should have meditated this morning. No wonder I'm thinking so much. I think a lot of us overthink a lot, and there's a bunch of reasons why we do so. But in this video, I'm going to break down how to solve it in terms of practical solutions. Watch until the end because it's going to be extremely valuable. Overthinking, rumination, whatever you want to call it, it's this process of just thinking over and over and over again about a situation very irrationally. And a lot of times we try to justify the emotional irrationality with logical facts about the situation that we're overthinking about. And then it just perpetuates the overthinking. When you overthink about a situation, your entire focus is on that situation or that thought process. You don't even have time or energy to focus on other things in your life. A health problem of some kind, or you're overthinking about what this person said, and then these other areas of your life are being neglected just because you're super focused on whatever you're overthinking about. Here's a quote on overthinking. Overthinking can be a way of trying to control a situation and to feel more confident about what to do next. The brain attempts to reduce your anxiety by cycling through possible scenarios and attempting to predict what will happen. Yeah, exactly. The brain wants to anticipate what's coming up next, and this is very common in type A people, perfectionists, high achievers, people like that. If you're someone that has high standards for yourself, you can start overthinking about the actions you're doing. You can start overthinking about, oh, I'm not doing this morning routine that I should be doing because successful people do it. Some people that overthink a lot, they always need structure. They always want to know what comes next, and they hate unknowns. Because you're not able to be good in the unknown, this overthinking starts clouding your mind and it starts bothering you, and then you start just living in this constant perpetual mode of overthinking. It's very important that we look for ways to work around this so that overthinking doesn't become a predominant thing that happens in our life. If your brain is constantly at 100 miles per hour, I mean, enjoying life becomes very difficult. I kind of want to give examples of my overthinking. In the past, by the way, context, I'm pretty tall. When I was younger, I would always have this thought process that when I would walk into rooms or I would come in contact with somebody, I had this thought process that I was making them feel anxious because I was tall. Because of that, like a part of me when I was younger, I would subconsciously not walk upright too much, right? Not have a big presence about me subconsciously, because I was overthinking about, okay, I don't want these people to feel anxious, like I'm better than them. I don't want these people to feel like intimidated and all of that. In sports, it was a little bit different. I'm competitive, so if you're intimidated, you're intimidated. But as a social context, that's kind of how it was. Eventually, I started just understanding why I was doing it, and I kind of corrected it. And then in college, I worked at a computer store. I was basically selling printers. I know, fun stuff. Fun little college job. So I would sell printers and all of that, and this one day I walk in, this guy that is a coworker of mine, and the first thing he says to me, he walks up to me, he says, "Man, you walk in here like you own the place." And when he said that, a split second, I was like, oh, is he feeling a little uneasy of me walking in with the straight posture? I just laughed it off. But in my brain, I'm like, wait a second. Him interpreting me walking in with a straight posture has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with him. Why do I care about his insecurities about me seeming extremely confident? That's something he has to work with. Me being confident in how I'm walking is bringing out an insecurity in him. I'm reflecting something in him that he needs to work on. When I started understanding this, I started thinking of where else in my life am I overthinking, especially when it comes to the opinions of others, but where else am I overthinking in terms of the actions I need to take? Now it's like, I'm not saying I never overthink, but I catch myself very quickly. A, I understand a lot about the mind now, and B, meditation, it just fixes the problem. And speaking of solutions, I'm going to get into solutions. First way to reduce overthinking significantly: start loving the unknown. Earlier I talked about type A people, type A personalities, people that are high achievers, people that have high standards for themselves. You need to get okay with the unknown because life is filled with unknowns. A lot of things can happen at any given moment. To be okay with the unknown is to start structuring your day a little bit less, do different things, do new things, do things that challenge you. You're going to start getting used to unknowns and being a little bit more comfortable with unknowns. Next, lessen the need for outcomes. Be less outcome dependent. And this just means being like spiritually detached from things and situations. Being spiritually detached from what you want. I know it's a contradiction because you want this outcome, you want this to happen, but being okay with it not happening and in your mind being prepared for it to not happen is okay. In fact, a lot of times when we want to reach a certain area of our life, we need to be okay with detaching from it. That way this doesn't consume us at all times. Next, learn to love failure and making mistakes. Failures can teach us a lot about things. I mean, I'm sure there are things you failed at in the past that you're glad that you failed at it because now it's literally made you who you are today. Failure is character building. Character building is everything. If you look at society today, people aren't developed because they don't fail enough. right? They don't go through hardship enough to build some sort of resolve and character. So because of that, they're stagnant. But when you embrace failure, you start developing like crazy. I wouldn't have this YouTube channel if I didn't embrace failure. I wouldn't have my business if I didn't embrace failure. And also, failure builds your humility and it manages your ego. If you're really moving up in life, you want to have things that do ground you. When you're achieving great things but you're still grounded, this is the perfect recipe. Head in the clouds, feet in the dirt kind of deal. Also, failure makes you love success even more. In my previous video titled 7 Spiritual Laws That Are Hidden From You, I talked about the law of polarity. When we have one thing and we have its opposite, the opposite makes us appreciate the one thing more because we've experienced the opposite. If you told me 5 years ago to sit down, talk to a camera about psychology, I'd literally tell you, give me a month to get ready. Now it's like, it's just second nature because I've had so many reps at it, right? I've had videos that I just didn't like and I didn't upload and I never uploaded them. And I have others that I'm like, those are amazing. And I've learned so much along the way because I've been okay with failure. Have I overthought some videos? Yeah, I have. But at the end of the day, now it's something that I overthink less because I'm okay with failing at things. The next thing is identify your triggers. You may say, oh, Jem, yeah, I overthink because of stress and anxiety. My next question would be, how ego related is that? How is the overthinking helping you stay within your ego, this identity that you've created about yourself, right? So for example, a father could overthink about being late to like his son's basketball game, for example, right? He's overthinking about that, but he's just being late to a basketball game. But to him, he hates the idea of being late to the basketball game because his ego tells him that he's an amazing father. He's always there for his kids. Like, that's his ego, that's his identity. So when he's late, he feels bad and he's just ruminating over it. Another example is, let's say someone's overthinking about a baseball game they're about to play in. They don't want to mess up. They're overthinking about, oh, I don't want to mess up. They're coming in with fear. Well, they're overthinking that because they have this identity of being a good athlete. Like, I am a great athlete. I am perfect. Like, I never mess up. So they come in with fear because they're holding so much to that identity, and they're trying to resist the other side, the duality, the fact that they could just have a bad game that night. But it's ironic because if they're okay with having a bad game that night, counterintuitively, they'll probably have a better game because they're not resisting it. Like, they're not in their head too much. They're just flowing. They're just playing. You have to identify how ego related is your overthinking. If you have the identity of I'm a high achiever and you're overthinking about slacking off, okay, maybe because you have this identity of being a high achiever, but it's just an identity. High achievers still should have times where they rest. High achievers should still have times. In fact, forget the high achiever identity. I achieve highly in things. I'm not a high achiever. Next, reframe the overthinking. Reframing is just looking at things from a different perspective. And a perfect sentence that I came up with for this is to say, I am doing this because. As in, I'm doing this because X, Y, and Z. For example, I am doing this because I view myself as an overachiever, and it's a way of protecting my ego. So you're reframing the overthinking. All these thoughts are coming. They just keep going, and there's emotion attached to them. But then you watch it without judgment, and you say, oh, like, I'm just doing this because I view myself X, Y, and Z. No matter what identity you take on, life has nuances. That means 100% of the time, you're not always going to be in that identity. So for example, someone that's a CEO of a company, they're a CEO of the company when they're working. Outside of the job, they're in traffic. They have to go visit the doctor at times. They have to also take care of themselves. Maybe they take care of their family. Maybe some leak in the house breaks and they have to fix it. They have stuff outside of the identity of being a CEO. But we take on these identities as if they're like fact of like, this is the end all be all. Like, I'm a CEO, I'm just this person. You have different things in life that you do. You don't just carry that identity everywhere. Someone that's a master of the field of sociology, let's say this person's trying to learn karate. They're not a master of karate. They come into karate as a novice, as a new person, as a newbie, and they're learning like a student, but they're a master of sociology. So what? In karate, they are learning. It's a different field. So life has nuances. There's different things going on. And when we overthink, it's because we're attached to an identity that we need to let go of, right? Maybe there's certain domains of life that you're not the best at. And that's okay. Next, do feeling meditation. I call this feeling meditation. I didn't come up with it. I'm sure a bunch of people do this, but I just like calling it feeling meditation. This is when you feel the emotional effect of the overthinking. So a lot of times we think of stuff and we add an emotional charge to it, and it becomes more real to us. That's how the mind and body work. When there's an emotional charge to a thought, it becomes more serious. The body takes it more seriously. But when we meditate and we close our eyes and we just watch how we're feeling, and we're watching the thoughts, and we're just feeling into it without judgment. We're not judging ourselves. We're just feeling it and watching it. Ironically, it starts to slow down. When you do this, it starts to slow down, it just starts to quiet down. The mind just becomes serene. And I recommend a guided meditation. Binaural beats are amazing. Find them on YouTube, binaural beats. I recommend alpha binaural beats because when you're overthinking, your brainwaves are going very fast. In neuroscience, they call this brainwave pattern Beta. Beta brainwaves, they're very quick, they're very fast. That's when we're processing things, having conversations, doing stuff, taking actions of some kind. But then there's alpha brainwaves, which is a little bit slower. And in alpha, this is typically in meditative states. This is typically when you're very calm and things like that. There's less of this. There's less fast moving thoughts, and it's more serene and calm. Actually, in alpha, you're able to actually see things more logically because there's less noise in your mind. I highly recommend feeling meditation because it really slows down your brainwaves to really be just more allowing. And next, chill on the catastrophizing. The fact is, it probably won't happen. The worst case scenario you're thinking about, it probably won't happen. I'm sure like a month ago, you catastrophized something, thought was going to happen, and it didn't end up happening. This is probably the case right now. Now, the next scenario is it actually does happen. You know what's going to happen when the thing you're overthinking about actually happens? It's probably not going to be as bad as you think. And next, if it's as bad as you think, you'll adjust, as in you'll adapt to it. You'll adapt to it and it'll be like a new norm. For example, if somebody thinks they have some sort of muscle injury and they're overthinking about the muscle injury, they go to the hospital and it turns out they tore something. That sucks. That feeling is there. That anxiety is there. Now, the worst case scenario they thought of happened, but what happens next? They feel bad about it for maybe an hour, maybe 2, maybe 3 hours, maybe 4 hours, maybe 5, maybe a day, maybe 2 days. But what starts to happen? It's normal now. It's the new reality. It's the, okay, I have this torn muscle. Maybe I'm gonna need surgery. Maybe I'm not gonna need surgery. Maybe I just need to sit off of it. Maybe the doctor said to ice it. Maybe it wasn't that bad. If your doctor tells you to ice your torn muscle, that might not be the doctor you want to have. Anyways, but the point is, it becomes a new reality, and it happened, and now you're used to it, and now things can get better. Right? From there, things can get better. This is how you want to think about it. Like, even if the worst case scenario happens, which it probably won't, but let's say it does, things will get better. And this is the kind of faith that you need to have when you're faced with certain situations. You need to have the trust in yourself in terms of your ability to bounce back from things, ability to process things. And if you're someone that's religiously inclined or something like that, and you feel like you have faith in a higher power, or maybe you're spiritually inclined, you have faith in, the universe, perfect. Trust that. So that's a very important thing when it comes to worst case scenarios. They're very rare to happen, but when they do, you can understand that things will get better. A lot of this is a mind game. And a big thing with overthinking is we have to be careful not to overthink about us overthinking. That's another like meta perspective of this. A lot of times we could overthink that we're overthinking. Oh, I'm thinking about this too much. You can stop and just say, I'm overthinking. Okay, now I'm overthinking about overthinking. Just watch your mind. And now don't judge yourself for overthinking, right? A lot of times we judge too much. That's another solution here. Judge less. Judge yourself less in life. Judge other people less. You're going to be so happy. Trust me. When you judge less, you have less neurotic, emotional projections and thoughts that go on when you judge less. A lot of our judgments are on the negative side. Those are like the powerful judgments, the ones that hit hard. Judgments about ourselves. I should have done this. Why am I like this? Why am I... Stop the judgments. And this goes back to awareness. You have to watch yourself. You have to watch the words you say. A lot of us, we're not paying attention to the words we say. Like, we just think words are just like strings of letters put together and we just communicate that way. No, words have meaning. Words have vibration. Words affect. This is a crazy thing I heard about where like people talk to like plants or something and the plants like die or something. I'm paraphrasing, but you know what I mean. People put certain words towards something and it affects that thing directly. Think about that. So if words can affect things directly, so to speak, right? There's different thoughts about this, right? Even I have to look more into that. But if words can affect things that are alive, that aren't human, you best believe it can affect humans. It can affect you. It can affect your psychology. It can affect your emotional circuit. It can affect so many things about you. So That's very important. Next, communicate. A lot of times we try to read minds and psychoanalyze people from a distance and say, oh, they probably do this because of this, and then I think I did this because of that. And they communicate. Ask the person why they're doing this. Ask the person what their thought process was. And they'll probably give you a lot of context. Communication gives us context, but taking the lazy way and trying to guess what someone is doing, it can lead to overthinking too much. So it's very important that we communicate when we're unsure about something with the other person, if it's another person. Another cool thing is you can communicate with yourself. And this is like self-inquiry. If you're overthinking, start from back. Talk to yourself. And yes, it's cool to talk to yourself. You should talk to yourself out loud too. It's cool to do that. You should do it. Start from what we talked about. I'm doing this because, right? You're communicating with yourself. You're communicating out. Maybe even journal, write it down. I'm overthinking right now. Boom, boom, boom. Like just put all of your thoughts on paper. And then you let it out. A part of you gets it off your chest. And this is like the communication element. It's not just communicating with other people when there's a situation you're unsure about with them. You're communicating with yourself. And now this brings like this self-integration that's like just beautiful because you're so in tune with yourself. You know yourself so well. There's nothing someone can really say about you that you don't already know. Lastly, this is my favorite mantra. It doesn't matter. When you internalize that it doesn't matter, good things are gonna happen. Like it doesn't matter. Whatever you're overthinking about, it doesn't matter. Life is a play, and we're all just here experiencing it.